Okay, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players Podcast. This is episode 26. We keep going. We are moving along, and it's great. It's great to be here because at this point, none of us have any stake in this tournament anymore. So we can just watch it, enjoy it, and have no fear that our team is going to fall short because they already have. We are going to talk about the knockout stages that are coming up. We'll go through some of our predictions that we made previous and see how we did on those. Spoiler alert, not so great. We kind of suck. And we will also talk about the big news that came out today as we are recording this on Friday. Frank de Boer is out of Atlanta. Connor, did you know that? I don't know if you knew that or not.
I was told once or twice, I believe.
So for those of you listening, we made sure Connor knew about every 15 minutes we would send him a different article or DM or Instagram post about Frank de Boer being out, just so we didn't miss out on it because we wanted to let him know that his big bad manager is gone. Connor, why don't we start off with that? Just kidding. Why don't we start off with Scarf of the Week, because that's what we always do. But Connor, we already know what you got, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Adam, what are you rocking?
I've got the World Cup final scarf from 2 years ago.
Ooh.
That my friend was lucky enough to be at the game and pick me up.
Very nice, very nice. And I am rocking the good old trusty Alfred University Saxon scarf because they're the only football team that gives me any happiness anymore since Liverpool won the title, so I can't brag about Everton, and Red Bull are out of the tournament, so I can't brag about them either.
Sorry,
Alfred Saxons.
threw up a little bit seeing that.
Alfred Saxons, unfortunately, don't have a season this fall, but I'm looking forward to them playing in the spring. Up the Saxons. We're better than the Bombers.
It's just not true.
So now let's move into our first segment. Let's talk about Frank de Boer. And I'm going to send it over to our resident Atlanta fan. And if he can speak through his tears, hopefully he can tell us a little bit about what he's thinking and how he's feeling.
Why would I have tears? Why are there tears?
I don't know. You probably are really upset that the greatest manager in the league has been fired.
Oh, yeah. I haven't stopped crying since I found out about the news for the 11th time. I was looking around on the post, just trying to get a sense of what the rest of the Atlanta fans felt about this move. And, it's kind of what I expected. I expected them to be happy about this because obviously, Atlanta with other sports is not as lucky in terms of success. So it's surprising to see them kind of take this moments of failure not so great, in my opinion. And I do think that, I don't personally love the fact that they fired him. And don't get me wrong, I was not a huge fan of his. But you sold half of your team, and then you played 3 games after a pandemic, and then you're like, all right, we've seen enough, get rid of them. I feel like that's harsh. I think you got it. Don't get me wrong, they looked bad at the tournament. They looked bad. But you have half your team that's playing for the first time. You got rid of LGP, Gressel, Nagy, Villalba. You don't have Josef Martinez. Your entire spine in the team is gone. I think you got to give him more time to figure it out. And they gave him 3 games. And while he didn't perform in the 3 games, I just think that he deserved a little bit more time before they made a move like this. But at the same time, you could see this as, a move by Atlanta to say, hey, we only tolerate success here. We're not willing to deal with moments of lacking success. So I think this is something that the new impending manager, whoever they decide to go with, should look at, because they might be on a short leash as well if they come in.
This hits me very much like when Ziggy Schmidt got fired from Seattle before Nico Ladero came in. You're looking at a team that has been off for 4 months, without their best striker, without a lot of the game plan that they were trying to play. And they've also got a ton of new players that are going to come in after this is over, right? You've got Jurgen Damm. You've got a few other names like Eric Lopez coming in. Tons of players that can make real impacts and real differences in your team. And you're not even going to give the coach a chance to use them. That seems rough to me. And I feel like they didn't take it with any sort of context, right? Like, oh, we scored 0 goals in 3 games in a tournament in a group that we probably should have gone through in, right? Yeah, you should have gone through. There's no question about that. But you were going at it without the best striker in the league. You were going at it without the reinforcements that you needed. One game you were down a player for what, 70 minutes, 65 minutes? You know, it's little things like that it's almost like this was definitely a rushed, rash decision. However, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think they did this out of the blue. They have somebody in mind who's ready to come in and take over, which is why they pulled the trigger. That's my personal belief.
Yeah, I wonder if they made this move thinking that maybe there is no season this season. So it's like this is basically the end of their season. They can make the move and know that they have time for the coach to come in and implement whatever system he wants.
Right, absolutely, and that's they're taking a gamble there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, and we talked about this very briefly before about what you said with De Boer and Shilato, and I 100% agree with you. They should have swapped teams because I think it would have been for the best. I think both managers were fitted for the other team better than they were fitted for the teams that were currently managing.
Quite frankly, I don't think Frank de Boer was fit for this league, period. He is a defensive, sit back, absorb the game, counter, possess when you go forward, like really slow, win games 1-0, 0-0 type of manager. And you're playing in an American soccer league that 4-3 is a normal score. That doesn't fit him very well. It's the same reason he didn't fit well in England, right? He was playing with a team where the attacking talent was too good for his defensive style anyway. And if he goes to a team like Sampdoria in Italy, like a mid-table Italian team, I think he'd do fine because his style fits better there than it did here. That's just my 4 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that I mean, you could see it during this tournament. This league has some defending problems that they need to work out, and if he needs a team that has good defenders, it's not the league for it.
Absolutely.
Adam, to go back to Netherlands.
Yeah, right. Adam, your thoughts?
It's tough. I mean, arguably one of the harder groups for whoever. I mean, obviously Columbus walked through it because it's Columbus, and we predicted they were probably going to go on to go pretty far, if not win the whole thing. And based on the way they've played the first 3 games, we might be right. But I mean, Red Bull, yeah, they've struggled historically against them for whatever reason. Red Bull just decide to show up against Atlanta, but then we'll lose to Cincinnati. Which basically left them with the 1 game against Cincinnati to do anything. They probably should have. I don't know. I don't want to say they should have gotten anything from that game, but I think at least they underperformed, which, I mean, it happens. I don't expect these teams to, be perfect all the time, every time. This is still an Atlanta team that, granted, has lost most of their players, but on paper at least is one of the above average teams in the league. Right? I'm not saying they were going to ever go on to win the tournament, but 0 goals from 3 games, regardless of if you're missing Josef, is bad. So, yeah, I mean, Connor spoke about it, how their 2-man midfield at one point was like Mo Adams and Big Jeff. Like, that's not a midfield that's going to win you a game.
Not a 2-man midfield is going to win you a game. You put somebody else in there, maybe,
right.
But those 2 in the formation that they played now.
Right. So part of those decisions are obviously De Boer's fault, him being the manager, but it's not as if the players looked well. Like, they didn't do anything spectacular on the field, and those players, like a PD, like, you know, the bigger names had to have stepped up, and they just didn't do a thing. Like, George Bello was probably their player of the tournament, and the kid's like 15. Like,
Yeah.
for a team like Atlanta, that really can't happen. As much as I love George Bello.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they honestly they didn't leave De Boer with anybody in the midfield to get the job done.
Yeah.
Their midfield is probably their weakest point in the team right now, and I'd say last year was one of their stronger points with Gressel and Nagby there. But
Yeah,
when you get rid of them and don't replace them, that's what's going to happen.
you saw it against Columbus. They still lined up in the 3-4-3 with that two-man midfield. Columbus had the three with Zellerine and I forget who the other two behind him. And just the amount of space for those three midfielders was a joke. I bet those Columbus players never wanted that game to end because they were just having so much fun with it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if other managers followed suit, unfortunately. I know we may talk about that in a minute, but
Yep, I was waiting to see if you guys had anything else. But my next question: Who's next? Who next? Who is the next one out of here?
Shalato.
probably.
Yeah.
I feel like LA has that same Atlanta mentality. Like, we should be winning now, and they're certainly don't look like they're close to winning.
I'd argue LA has a worse team than Atlanta does.
I would.
Yeah.
I bet that LA has a worse team. Than Atlanta does.
I was watching last night during the LAFC Portland game. I went back and watched some of our previews with JR, and he literally said he called Carson getting late PK. Granted, he said the game was going to be 3-1, but he said that's the only way they're going to score is off some nonsense late minute penalty, and he was spot on. I mean, that was a bad game from both sides. Houston had issues as well, but just that was like peak MLS. Some of those plays.
Mm-hmm.
You have Christian Pavone trying to beat guys in the box in the dying minutes. All you do is pass it across to an open guy. That LA Galaxy team is not good.
There are two types of people who saw that game, right? There's you, and then there's me. There's you, who's like, "Oh, I hated this. I can't believe that happened. Nobody deserves to win." And I'm freaking out on the side, being like, I love this league. Everything sucks. It's awful, but it's my league."
Oh, I agree. This is why we cover MLS. Like, this is that kind of madness.
You don't see that anywhere.
Fantastic, but I'm also thinking about trying to grow the league and expand it. So I was watching with a friend and his dad, and who knows the game. He obviously grew up playing, and his dad coached him for his whole career, but they don't necessarily watch soccer as much as the three of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, he's like, I've been watching a bunch of the MLS games now that they're on TV. I started watching the Serie A games, and he's like, the difference between those two leagues in terms of like the quality of play, the possession, just the tactical knowledge is gross. He's like, we are so far behind. So yeah, that entertainment wise, that LA Houston game was fantastic for fans of MLS like us. Like, it's, end to end, super stretched the whole time, comical errors, just everything. But in terms of trying to grow this league, like, it has to be better. Like people like my friend's dad who aren't necessarily invested in this league see those kind of games and go, "Oh my God, this is horrendous."
Yeah, that's why we need more guys like Zellerine. Because if you watch him play in MLS, you're like, this is a guy that's a good, talented player. And I mean, you saw that with Almiron, Joseph Martinez, Zellerine.
But Columbus as well, not just Zellerine, have players around him who work together. Like, there's a clear system at Columbus. They know what they want to do and how they want to play. And yes, Zellerine is obviously arguably the best player on that team by a good stretch. But Columbus has all those pieces in place. Watching that LA team, I mean, other than Pavone and Efren Alvarez, and I don't remember the guy who was up top that I'd never heard of before.
Zubac.
Thank you.
Love Zubac. Thought he was great.
Yeah, he. I was impressed with him, but other than that, I would scrap pretty much that entire LA team, which is for a team like the Galaxy isn't a good indictment.
I'm keeping David Bingham because he's a good goalkeeper, and I'm keeping Perry Kitchen for the memes.
I mean, did you see that goal Houston that Darwin scored?
So I'm not saying he doesn't make mistakes. I'm saying that you're not going to find a better shot stopper than him most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay.
Most of the time, right? He will make mistakes, but
yeah.
he is a fantastic. Look at what happened when they were playing LA. They left him out to dry, and he was on fire.
But still,
I think you got to keep Dos Santos too.
I meant of the players who were playing.
Yeah. I figured you meant that.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that granted they're missing two of their most important players in Chicharito and Dos Santos, but I mean the fact that the Galaxy is literally built off a less stellar version of Madrid, where we just bring in like essentially the MLS Galacticos, and the fact that we're saying we're going to keep 4 players on that team, that's horrible.
Yep. I am shocked nobody's brought up the obvious.
Chris Armas
for, I believe, personally, the second time in his short coaching career, messed up a lineup in a very clutch game. 0 strikers on the field. 4-2-2 where you have your best playmaker playing out wide, which I think the 4-2-2 is awful. I think Red Bull Global trying to force it on us is awful. And I think the only reason he's still in that position is because, okay, I'll play your 4-2-2. Davis and Caceres are not playing the way they need to. Amro Tarek had a blunder, whatever. I believe he is on the hot seat. The reason I don't think he's out next is because it's not his fault that when he had to rotate in the third game in 15 days in 95-degree heat, he had nobody to rotate to. For his starting 11 to be Ben Mines, 17 years old, year of Omir at striker, which is why he didn't play well because he was out of position, obviously. I didn't even take too close of a look at that starting 11, but you look at it and you think, where is our depth? Our depth is our second team. We're not signing players like LA to put on our bench and say, okay, we need you to come off the bench and be good. We're signing 1 player to be in the starting 11, 2 players. I'll give you Jensen and I'll give you Pendant. And then everybody else is okay. Our entire benches are just second team. Who cares? Red Bull Global is not doing enough to give Chris Armas the tools he needs to possibly succeed. I'm not saying he will if we gave it to him, because I think he still is struggling in terms of key formation changes or tactic changes or personnel changes in big matches. But who is he going to go to, right? So I'm just voicing my opinion there. I was shocked nobody brought him up, but I don't think he's on his way out, but I believe his seat is getting warmer as we speak.
So I would argue that Red Bull aren't the type of franchise to make that kind of a decision unless things get really, really bad. So we talked about how this tournament is a bubble. If this is the entire season, granted, it's 3 games, 5 games if we're counting the first actual 2 game weeks before this kicked off. So I think a lot has been made on TV how Red Bull aren't trying to bring in those big name star-studded guys anymore, and they're trying to just use the academy and use kind of those, like, I don't want to say lesser name guys, but you know what I mean.
Lesser name guys. You're not wrong when you say that. I
mean, yes. I was trying to be nice for a change.
Don't be nice. Not for Red Bull. You have to be nice to FCC because FCC went farther than all of our teams. You aren't allowed to trash talk them today.
I know. But I think because they're trying to put that culture switch and move kind of away from the older Felipes, the Robleses, the BWPs, which I understand. Like I always love seeing the younger guys who, you can see them grow. Like I would have loved if Tyler Adams had stayed to see how. I mean, granted, I'm happy he's killing in Europe,
Oh,
but I heard that point on TV from, I can't remember if it was Stu Holden or whoever.
Whoever.
But yeah, whoever. But part of me, my immediate reaction was, yeah, but all those players won us things.
It's fair.
Like I'm all for, using the academy kids and bringing kids through who understand the culture, but Bradley Wright Phillips has 1,000 goals for us. Dax McCarty was one of our best players for like 10 years. Like, you need those older guys that know how to do this. So I don't know if Armis will be the next one to go. Andrew, I know you want this person to stay because I know how much you enjoy watching this team, but what about DC? What about Ben Olsen?
That's a good shout. The reason I don't think that he's gone, and we had a very long conversation. If anybody hasn't seen our live reactions yet for the Montreal DC game, Adam and I sat down and had a full conversation about this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's keeping Ben Olsen in DC. I don't know what results he's gotten that say this guy is worthy of keeping around. I don't, right? And I think he had 5 top 10 finishes in the last 10 years, but only like 1 playoff win or something like that, if that. Some stat like that where it's like, okay, half the years he didn't even make it. And when he did, he barely got out of the first round. And that doesn't strike confidence in me, right? You're looking at an Atlanta team that just lost 3 games in a row and said, all right, see you later, de Boer. Now you've got a team that's finished dead last 3 out of the last 10 years, and you're going to say, okay, stay around. And it's not like you haven't given him the tools to succeed, right? You went out and you bought Wayne Rooney. You went out and you bought Luciano Acosta. You went out and you bought back Bill Hamid. You went and got him the players that he needs, and he's still not putting it together. And again, as we mentioned, he could stay there for the rest of his life, rest of my life. I don't care, because he'll keep doing the same stuff. But if I'm looking from a neutral standpoint, what do people see that say, yeah, that's a guy, that's the one we're going to look at? I don't know.
I mean, it didn't – I know it's hard to do this, obviously, because this is a professional game and everyone's trying to win as much as they can. But realistically, you needed to win 1 game to move on, right? Like, all you needed was 3 points. And you could do pretty much – except for Red Bull. But for the majority, teams didn't have to be fantastic to move on. Cough, NYC, cough. So it makes me wonder, like, the quote better teams that didn't get to the 3 points, like what went wrong. Chicago, I get it. There's a bunch of new players. You're still trying to figure it out. Fine, you get a pass. Miami, fine, new franchise. I get it. 0-5 is not great, but is what it is. We move on. DC are fairly established at this point, and their group wasn't the hardest to pick up a win from.
It wasn't easy per se, but they definitely, with the players that they have, should have picked up at least 3 points somewhere.
Right. Colorado's the other one, considering the way they started. But that group was a little bit more difficult, I think, than DC's. So, like, not everyone can go through, obviously. I mean, we spoke about Atlanta already. That was someone wasn't going to move on from that group. I don't know how the hell Cincinnati finished in second, but I'm not super surprised because Atlanta looked horrendous and Red Bull don't run out of ways to surprise us. And that Galaxy team is a dumpster fire. So, like, I get it, but that DC, I think of those teams, DC should have been the one to go through based on just who was around them.
No, totally agree. And we could sit here. This could be a whole other episode, and we could go into this for a while. But we want to talk about the future games. But before we even get to the future games, the knockout stage that we are at. Let's go back through our predictions really quick. I am going to skip groups A and B because groups A and B were ripped apart and moved around and not so great. So we're just going to go through groups C, D, E, and F and talk about the actual results and what we predicted. So group C, topped by TFC and New England, both with 5 points, Montreal with 3, DC with 2. Only one person predicted that any of those teams would get any of those points, and that was myself predicting TFC with 5 points. However, I also not myself, Connor predicted TFC with 5 points. However, Connor also predicted DC to hit 7, New England to hit 2, and Montreal to have 1 because he is a hater, as we know. Adam went Montreal 7, TFC 7, DC 3, New England 0. I went Montreal 5, DC 5, TFC 4, New England 1. So close in terms of knowing it was going to be close, but only Connor picks up a point in terms of picking that prediction. Group D, we have SKC at top with 6, Minnesota with 5, RSL with 4, and Colorado finishing bottom of the table. What went wrong in Colorado, I do not know, but I'm not worried. I think they'll turn it around. 2 of us predicted Minnesota on 5 points. That is myself and Connor. Well done, Connor. I also said Colorado would finish top of the group with 7, SKC with 4, RSL with 0. Adam went with Colorado 7, SKC 7, Minnesota 4, RSL 0. I think you can see a trend with this group. Connor said SKC 7, Minnesota 5, Colorado 4, RSL 0. None of us backed the RSL boys, and they made it through on a third-place finish. Well done, RSL. Group E, we all predicted 9 points for Columbus.
Yeah,
we got the hard one.
That wasn't hard.
I said RBNY would have 6, Atlanta would have 1, and FCC 0. I was the closest on Atlanta. Adam goes RBNY 4, Atlanta 4, FCC 0. Connor goes RBNY 2, Atlanta 4, FCC 1. Real results, 9 points for Columbus, 6 for FCC. Up the FCC boys. RBNY with 3 and Atlanta with the same number of points as they scored goals. 0. Connor, you're supposed to react to that. Be pretty upset.
Oh, yeah. Super upset. I can't be upset. I'm still crying over Frank de Boer leaving.
That's right. That's right. And then finally, Group F. Only one of us predicted Portland on 7 points. That was myself. And had Houston not picked up a point against LAFC, I would have had LAFC spot on as well. Real results, 7 for Portland, 5 for LAFC, 2 for Houston, 1 for Galaxy. I went 7 for Portland, 7 for LAFC, 3 for LA Galaxy, 0 for Houston. Adam went 9 LAFC, 6 Portland, 3 LA Galaxy, 0 Houston. And once again, another trend. Connor went 9 LAFC, 6 LA Galaxy, 3 Portland, and 0 Houston. So those were our predictions. Myself and Connor had 3-point predictions correct from the last 4 groups. Adam picked up 1 to continue his trend of not being so great at predictions. Speaking of game predictions, at the current moment, we sit overall, myself at 35 points over 5 weeks, including the first 2 weeks of the season. Connor right behind me at 34. And a little bit farther down the ladder, Adam is at 24. An exciting week of predictions for us, and we will continue to do it. With the knockout stage of the MLS's back tournament, matchups are Philadelphia versus New England, SKC versus Vancouver, TFC NYC, Portland Cincinnati, aka Portland versus the future winners of the tournament, because that's how this works. Orlando, Montreal, Seattle, LAFC, the best game of the round of 16, no contest. San Jose, RSL, and then Columbus, Minnesota. So we are going to dive right in, give you our predictions, give you our previews, talk about what we thought about each team from the last round. And we're going to start with Orlando versus Montreal. Orlando, top of Group A. That's right, top of Group A. 2 wins, a draw, 6 goals for, 3 goals against, taking on Montreal, who are third in Group C. 1 win, 2 losses, 4 goals for, 5 goals against. Starting off with Orlando, I'm going to take this one. Orlando, as we mentioned, are the Russia of this tournament. They're not an awful team. They're not a great team, but they are the home team, which means they use the home field advantage, the 95-degree heat, the 99% humidity to run Group A into the ground. Big ups Oscar Pereja for getting this team to really dig in and get some results. We talked about it in the beginning of this entire podcast when we were making predictions for this season, that Orlando needed a manager to come in and change the culture. The culture had been all about just being awful, losing. Nobody really wanted to play for that team. Nobody cared. And he came in and made that change. One of my players of the group stage for Orlando, obviously Chris Mueller, one of the best attacking players, been on fire. But I'm also really impressed with Luis Nani. Luis Nani, I thought with the short recovery time between games, the high temperatures, the high humidity, I thought it would wear on him a little bit. He wouldn't perform as well, but he's looked really, really good. The player I need to see more out of as we go forward in the group stages or the knockout tournament, whoever's playing up top needs to be good. Dom Dwyer and Tesh Rockandeli combined over 3 games have 1 assist. No goals, 1 assist. It's not good enough. If 5 in the back Montreal sits in and just makes Mueller non-existent, who's going to put the ball away? You've got 1 goal from Nani and 1 goal from Pereira, and I'm pretty sure Pereira is going from the spot. So who's going to step up and score a goal if Mueller disappears? They need more from that true number 9. In terms of Montreal, you're welcome. We backed you, and you got in. We told you you could do it, and you did it. Congratulations, you're welcome. Now, what are you going to do to move on is my question. Ty Dare is my player of the group stages. He's got 3 of your 4 goals. But where is everybody else? Bojan, Urruti, Onkwonkwo, Kyoto, Lapalainen. You got this array of just phenomenal attacking players from last year, and they've done nothing. They need to step up and help out a little bit. You need to see a little bit more from your back line, right? You got a clean sheet in your last game, but 4 goals with 5 in the back against Toronto, not good enough for me. To me, I'm really going to focus on Victor Wanyama. We, again, in our live reactions, if you haven't seen it, go check it out against DC United. We continue to note how he was a decent stopper in terms of his center defensive mid. Very few people could get by him, but when he picked up the ball and tried to make that forward pass, 9 times out of 10, it was a giveaway. It's not good enough for somebody who's your DP CDM. You need somebody who can win the ball and play it. And Piet next to him isn't that type of guy either. They need to either play Maciel next to him or sit him at center back, because as a defensive mid, he can't make that forward pass. And that worries me if you're looking to sit back and counter. If your counter-attacking ball is not good enough, you're not going to be a good counter-attacking team. And he is not playing the right ball right now. It's not good enough, right? It's 7-8 yard passes he's missing. And then he's going to try and play the really long ball, and he's going to overhit it every time, and it's not going to work. So I think you got to play Maciel next to him, or you have to encourage him to either play to Piet, who can play around, or play up to a Ty Dare or a Yoruti or somebody closer to him who is better on the ball. So that's what I'm going to watch for. He's going to be my player to watch in this game. However, my prediction is that Orlando keeps riding the home field advantage wave and takes this one 2-1 over Montreal. Montreal, prove me wrong, because I need your help in making us look like fans.
It's fair. Yeah, 2-1's probably a fair result. In terms of your players to watch, I argue Kyoto's been better. I think Kyoto started off really, really poor that first game, and then has gotten a little bit better as they've gone through. But yeah, Bojan and Rudy were bad. Lapalainen, I don't think has played
Where is he? What happened to him?
He's been on the bench. I don't know why he's not getting more game time. I don't know, but he's been there. He's physically present.
Yeah, so again, the big players like that need to be in the game. I don't know what you're doing in training, but step it up, man. Go prove to your coach, your world-class coach, that he needs to play you.
Yeah, and I think, at least from what I've seen, Okonkwo seems to be the guy who won't start, but will come off the bench because he's so rapid. And once people start getting a little tired, they bring him on, and he kind of just chases people down and brings a little bit of energy.
Which is fine, but he still hasn't given me anything, right?
Right, and
he's just a pair of legs right now.
Right, and I'd make, not in the excuse, but I'd make the argument that it's tough to impress 20 minutes out of a game, but I get it. Yeah, I mean, we question that back line. I think is the big star.
Yeah. Let's go to Philly, New England, because I want to know what Mr. Wright thinks about this game.
Well, I'll tell you what I think about this game.
Oh, will you really? That's exactly what I want.
I will. Well, now I don't want to say about the game because I don't want to tell you what you want. I'll start with Philly. They were second in Group A with 2 wins, 1 tie, 4 goals for, 2 goals against. And I feel like Philly was the most predictable team in this group in that they pretty much did what we expected from them. While it may not have been necessarily against the teams that we expected them to do it against, they still did what we expected them to do. And maybe with the exception of Miami, the rest of this group was just a mess all over the place, seeing as how 2 teams weren't even in the group anymore. And NYC did not play well. And even though Miami, I'm sure they didn't have super high expectations, I still feel like they played below expectations. But, Philly was solid. I would say they were good, not great. I wasn't fully sold on the team because I don't think that they played the toughest teams in their group stage. I don't think that Miami was super dangerous team. NYC did not look like a super dangerous team. And while Orlando did look, better than we expected them to look, I still don't know if I'm going to say Orlando is one of the better teams in the knockout stages right now. So, I mean, you're looking at 3 teams that are world beaters. So it's fairly reasonable that they go through in this group. So for me, I felt like Philly's best players from the group stage were Brendan Aronson, Alejandro Bedoya, and I thought that their best player was Andre Blake. And he saved them in multiple games in this group stage. I think without him, if you take him out and you put Sanchez in, I don't know if Philly get out of this group stage. I mean, you could question it. They could have lost to NYC. They could have lost to Orlando. I think that Blake was the difference maker for them. And that says something about Philly, because if your goalkeeper is your best player, that probably doesn't bode too well for your defense. And I think that while they only conceded 2 goals, I'm going to guess that text is about me lagging. I'm doing my best with the connection. While their defense hasn't conceded a lot of goals, there's been a lot of times where they could have, maybe against a better attack. So I'm looking to see if their defense kind of looks a little bit sharper in the knockout stage, maybe some more added pressure, makes them sharpen up and play a little bit better. I also want to see more from Shabilko. And not that he was terrible in the group stages, I just feel like that he's a very solid player for Philly, and I think he could add more to the attack for them and really make them even more dangerous. And another thing that I wanted to mention for them is Jose Martinez, I feel like, has to be careful now that it's knockout about not fouling too much and getting himself sent off, because if you do that in this one-off game, that really hurts your team. And then we have New England, who was they were second in Group B, 1 win, 2 ties, 2 goals, 1 goal allowed. And I think that New England surprised all of us in that they looked like a pretty solid team in the group stages. What's the C for?
See,
C?
their
Why did
second group. See, did you go on Google and look
Oh,
at this?
no,
Google
I
has
just messed up the letter. I just messed up the letter.
okay, because Google, I'm almost certain Google still has the wrong groups under
Google
the
has it all mixed up. Yeah,
yeah,
I was
which is
on MLS.
wild, by the way. The only sports league that came back, they still can't get it right. If they messed up the NBA, if like the NBA tournament, and they messed up like a matchup, milliseconds before it's fixed. This is weeks, and they've still left it to be normal. But anyways,
Okay.
right over. Go ahead.
I felt like their attack looked really threatening at times, and obviously the defense was pretty locked down. They only conceded one goal the entire group stage. I do feel like they need to be more clinical on their attack because I feel like they created a ton of chances, but you only scored 2 goals in the group stages, which tells me you're not finishing them off. I remember seeing some stat that Heel had like 12 chances created in the first game, and you still walk away from 3 games with only 2 goals. So someone's got to be finishing these chances off. And I know against Toronto, they were playing without a few of their better attackers. Pretty much, I would say their best attackers. So that could be an explanation for some of their lack of goals. And then in terms of the defense, besides one sloppy pass, they would have had 0 goals conceded the entire group stage. So New England defense could be pretty strong as long as you don't have those few little lapses of concentration. But you need to not have those in the knockout stages. You don't have other games to make up for that one. You have lapses in concentration, and it's over for you. One of the biggest things for me in this game is no Heel. That's gonna hurt New England big time. But they have other guys that can step up. They need to see Gustavo Bo. They need to see Pania, and they need Buxa. They need them to step up and finish these chances. You're gonna have probably less chances created now without Heel. You gotta make the most of them now. You gotta do everything you can to make each opportunity count, because if you go through like you did in the group stages, missing opportunities, it's gonna cost you. But all that being said, I know that was a lot. I am gonna go with New England winning this one 1-0.
Very nice. I'm looking something up really quick here. I saw something earlier today that said Brendan Aronson is being scouted by like
It was like
9.
Frankfurt, right?
It was like 9 different teams in Europe between Bundesliga 2 level, Scotland, and I think like low level championship teams too. Like he is one of Philly's best players, but how long will he be there is a very good question. I know he is
last season.
I wouldn't be shocked, and I know that'll hurt Adam because if Adam has like 3 different bandwagons, it's the Colorado, the FCC, and then the player bandwagon.
No.
Throws like 7 players on and is like, I love all these guys. Bandwagon it up. Let's go.
Let's make an entire starting 11 out of bandwagon players for Adam.
We very well could. Could be a new episode. Keep your eye out. Adam's bandwagon 11. Ali Adnan on every position.
11 Ali Adnans.
I could probably make one real quick.
Before you do that, before we get carried away, let's talk about San Jose versus RSL. Neither of which are on your bandwagon teams, but you can talk about them.
No, they're not. Unfortunately, my Colorado team did not make it out of that group instead of RSL. RSL, I haven't seen a whole lot of. I'm pretty sure I watched the game against Minnesota, but it was super boring. Ended 0-0, and I don't think I actually sat and wrote notes like I might usually do. I think it was just trying to stay awake. Yeah, I was just trying to stay awake during it, and wasn't impressed necessarily with either team. So in terms of who they, how they looked and who I need to step up in the group stage, I don't know. They lost to Sporting Kansas City, which I can't fault them for. Sporting Kansas City are, again, one of the top teams in this team tournament probably. They grinded out a result against Minnesota, which I'm fairly impressed with. We've talked about how RSL's gotten rid of a lot of their attacking talent. I don't think I've been that impressed with Minnesota. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you've seen them more than I have. Since
Minnesota are very good. You are wrong.
Okay, but have they been playing well?
So it's been interesting, right? They've got their one win and 2 ties, so they haven't lost. They know how to pick up points, but I haven't been super impressed. But they also don't have Ike, and they didn't have Amaria for most of the games. So
yeah, so they grinded out a good result probably for them against a meh Minnesota team, and then they beat Colorado, who for whatever reason is struggling. So they have, I think, enough talent to maybe, grind one out. But when you look at the San Jose team, I mean, they beat Chicago, who it's Chicago. They're still trying to figure out what the hell's going on over there. They had probably the game of the tournament, arguably, against Vancouver, because that game was just ridiculous at points. And then they tied Seattle, which I think impressed a lot of people. We kind of thought Seattle was going to go in there and walk over them. But conceding 3 goals to Vancouver isn't great, especially when you think back to that own goal and some of the ones they've conceded. But I think I've been fairly impressed with San Jose so far. I don't think we gave them necessarily enough credit going in, but they've proved that, this is a team that can do things. I mean, Christian Espinoza is easily the player that I think will be the make it or break it. Obviously, the Wandos, the Ericssons, whatever. But I think the way he's been playing those first couple of games, it's Christian Espinoza doing everything for them. Quick advice for RSL, and I don't know if you know this, but Chris Wondolowski has a lot of goals in this league. Please try to defend him if he's in the box, because some teams don't do that. So if you want to have any sort of success, make sure the guy who's made a career out of scoring in this league is defended well.
It's absolutely wild. Like, he does a lot of good things well to create his own space, but there are also a lot of times where he's just standing and everybody's like, hey, look, there's a guy over there. And nobody moves to him, and they just kick him the ball, and he scores. And that is where we can go back again and talk about how awful defending in this league is. When you look at you're going to leave Ronaldo or Messi open in the box like that? No. Like, are you leave anybody with, like, that sort of finishing record open in the box like that? No. So why are you leaving Chris Wondolowski wide open on the 6-yard box where, like, 90% of his goals will come from and one of his career misses?
Oh, Lord.
I'm genuinely worried for the day if Ronaldo does come to MLS, because he may have like 80 goals in a season, and that's not an exaggeration if this is the level of defending.
Oh, it's gonna be awful.
Like,
no, it's not. See, because they're gonna be like, oh, I could take on Ronaldo, and then they're gonna get by him once, and then their fragile egos are gonna be like, oh no, I got beat, and they're just gonna two-foot him, and then his career's over.
If Chris Wondolowski's getting free in the box and, tapping balls in, Ronaldo can jump like 25 feet in the air. All teams have to do, whoever he plays with, just launch a ball into the box. Granted, that's, he can score however he wants pretty much, but just launch a ball into the box. He'll out-jump everybody and score. That's easy. Like, I'm genuinely terrified if he comes to our league based on some of the defensive performances I've seen. You're going to tell me if he's playing for that Galaxy team last night and you see that Houston back line, he's not scoring 7 goals?
I do not disagree. I think it would be a very
gross. But I think San Jose have enough to get through this game. So I'm going to say 2-0.
Interesting. All right, so let's move on then to SKC versus Vancouver. And look, it's me again. I love talking. SKC, top of Group D, 2 wins, 1 loss, 6 goals for, 4 goals against, versus Vancouver, third in Group B, 1 win, 2 losses, 5 goals for, 7 goals against. SKC, and granted, SKC, had it not been for an awful red card decision, which we've spoken about at length and nobody disagrees with me because I'm right. Put your hand down, loser. SKC is 9 points clear right now. I do not think they blow that lead if they have 11 men on the field. They showed really good strength to come back in Orlando against Colorado, even though it was with the help of some sketchy referee decisions on their own. And they also knocked off RSL. Player of the tournament for me, Alan Pulido. I think he's been fantastic. He has 1 goal and 3 assists, been really electric, and just the type of number 9 that they've needed for a long time. I think the last time they had somebody this prolific up there was probably the Dwyer Kamara era over there. Everything else is kind of like, we've been scoring with other people. I need to see more out of Gadi Kinda. We talked about how good he was when the season started and how exciting he was and how he was number 10 that SKC's needed. And he's been kind of MIA. So I need to see more out of him. I think SKC are really strong now that they've got all their players back and Richard Sanchez isn't in goal. And I'm excited to see them go through this tournament. I think they're going to have a really good run. They take on a Vancouver team who are living a Cinderella story. My first comment when I was taking notes on this is, well, how did this happen then? A team that came to this tournament with 0 strikers, their third choice keeper is now playing in goal. 5 of their starters decided not to show up. And it seemed like when they walked in, they were going to have 0 points because they had no players. And they scored 2 on the final day to move on in the tournament. Am I impressed? No. Max Crepeau is my player of the group stage. I mean, he was phenomenal, but he's hurt. So now you're looking at Hassal to come in and keep a clean sheet against an SKC team with one of the better attacks in the final 16. I'll be keeping an eye on him for sure, but I'm worried, right? I didn't get a chance to see him play, but I heard he was all right against Chicago. Also, Yordi Reyna be better. He had a goal last game against Chicago after a lightning delay, but if he's going to be up top, I need to see more out of him. 1 goal in 3 games is good, but man, he's got to be just better. He's not a striker. We've talked about this. He's just not a striker. I know Adam loves him because he's fast, but we're not playing FIFA here. We're playing soccer. And I need to see more out of Yordi Reyna. I think he's partnered up with DeJome, who I haven't seen enough of to get a feel for, because apparently he's a winger. He's like playing Alex Mawil up top, which should happen, by the way. If we're not going to play strikers, let's just throw Mawil up there. But that's another story for another day. So I want to see how they combine a little bit more. But, yeah, for this one, I think the Cinderella story is over for Vancouver. I'm going 2-0 SKC. Anybody have any thoughts?
No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build his team right now.
Oh my God.
I'm missing like 3 players.
We will get to that later.
What positions are you missing?
Center back, right back, goalkeeper.
Center back, right back, goalkeeper.
We'll
also,
get to
this is
that.
a very attacking team. That's like no defense.
We can get to it. I'll give you easy center back.
I have 1 center back.
Okay.
Who's the center back?
It's Jack Elliott.
Oh, right, Jack Elliott.
Connor, take a break for a second.
It's Captain Jack Elliott.
Take a break for us, and Amar Tarek, obviously. Take a break for a second and tell me about TFC versus NYC. TFC, top of Group C, 1 win, 2 ties, 6 goals for, 5 goals against, versus NYC, who are third in Group A with 1 win, 2 losses, 2 goals for, and 4 goals against.
All right, well, I have that written down. I was going to say that. Then you went ahead and did it. You want to take the prediction from me too? You want to go ahead and just do the rest of it? Yeah, you do your weird faces over there. So Toronto, they were exciting to watch this group stage, but that's because every game was a goal fest, with the exception of the last game. So where was the good and where was the bad? let's have a look at their goal differential. So they got 6 goals that they scored this group stage. That's pretty good. I feel like they should have a pretty high goal difference. Just kidding. They have a 1 goal difference because they conceded 5 goals. So it's very clear to see where the good and the bad is for Toronto. Their attack has been kicking off while their defense has been kicking rocks.
Oh, I like that. That's clever.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. The 2 best players for Toronto in the knockout stage, I feel like it was pretty obvious. It was Pozuelo and Akinola. They were so threatening in front of goal, and they accounted for 5 of Toronto's 6 goals. So they pretty much were the attack for Toronto. I mean, they were doing everything for them. And then obviously, like I said, defense was the weak point. They absolutely need to improve there. And I'm looking at Omar Gonzalez and I'm looking at Chris Mavinga because they looked lackluster and they looked slow. It's not like you have the guys to replace him because Simon and Zavaleta didn't look better. So it's going to come down to these guys, and they got to step it up and they got to play better. And I don't think a lack of speed necessarily should be an excuse for bad performances because Per Mertesacker made an entire career out of having slower speed than Yoenis Cespedes running the bases. So they can figure it out. And if they do, and that attack keeps firing along, it'll be that dangerous team we all know and hate to go up against in knockout rounds. But if the defense keeps looking like they have been, then NYC is definitely a team that could exploit that, and they could finally get that attack kicking off again. And segue, speaking of NYC, I know NYC are still in the tournament right now, which is more than we could say for the rest of our teams, but they've been really disappointing. And despite the fact that they had the slow start at the beginning of the season, I think we all expected more out of this team. We expected them to be better than they were. But despite the fact that they didn't play great, they're still here. They're still in it. That's all that matters. You didn't have to play great. You're in the next round. In terms of best player, it's tough. I went with Margarita because why not? And I think that a lot of players need to step up if they want to make a run in this playoff, especially on the attacking side of things. Obviously, you had 0 goals in the early part of the season, and then you got 2 in this tournament, which 2 is still not great. It's better than 0, don't get me wrong. Easy math. 2 is greater than 0. But it wasn't great.
Since when?
You call yourself a math person. I expect more from Castellanos, Medina, and Matrita. And this isn't me saying that they're bad. It's just that I expect more from them. And I think this is a matchup that could be beneficial for them if they can use their speed to get in behind. They can definitely outpace Toronto's back line. That's for sure. And then obviously they need Sean Johnson to step up because if he played better in the knockout stages, I think NYC more comfortably go through to the next round. Obviously, we know in game against Philly, he probably should have made a better effort to save the goal. And that would have obviously at least got them 1 point. Maybe it would have changed things and they could have got 3. But he needs to step up. He needs to play like the Sean Johnson that we know and put on Mount Rushmore's. So with all that being said, I think that Toronto will win this one 2-1.
First time, by the way, you've gone against NYC in this pick'em. Every game you have picked NYC to win.
Well, look who they were playing against.
I believe. Hold on. Yeah, you had 9 points for NYC in terms of predictions.
Yeah, they played Miami, Orlando, and Philly. And
I gave them 1 point.
Well, we were both wrong. So
You know who wasn't wrong?
who?
Wait, which way? No, this guy. He had 3 points. And guess what?
Yeah,
They got 3 points.
they did. Maybe Adam should have took this one.
No.
No. Okay.
That's okay.
Adam can talk to us about one of his many bandwagon teams.
It's just not true.
Adam, Portland are taking on the future champions of this tournament in FCC. Portland were the top of Group F with 2 wins, 1 tie, 6 goals for, 4 goals against. While FCC were second in our Group E with 2 wins, 1 loss, 3 goals for, and 4 goals against. Tell me what you think and how badly you think FCC are going to win.
If Cincinnati win this whole tournament, I will buy an FCC jersey.
Clip it.
Do it. Fine.
Clip it.
I'm here for it. Yeah, fair play. They made it through what we thought was the hardest group. Obviously, no one thought Atlanta was going to just not show up the way they did. And like I said before, Red Bull, nothing surprises us anymore. The Atlanta game was kind of wild. They were up a man for pretty much the whole game. But it took something special from Frankie Maya. And the Red Bulls just look like duty. So, as good as – I'm not taking the 6 points away from them. I think now that they come up against the Portland team who is just, rolling through the group stage, I think this is their first real test. You saw what happened when they played Columbus. They looked bad. I felt genuinely bad for those players that game. Whereas Portland, their strikers are fun. Jeremy Bobasi is literally just going off this tournament, and then Nish
He's literally just having a good time out there. He's goals for fun.
He didn't even start. Nish Goda started the other day, and Bobasi still came on and scored. He's like, no, I'm only going to play 20 minutes, but I hope I'm still going to score this game. Yeah, but I was impressed the way they handled the LAFC team. Granted, conceding 2 goals in 3 minutes to them, not a great shout, but we've spoken about that LAFC team so often. Their attacking lineup is just ridiculous. You can't leave, similar to a Wondolowski. Bradley Wright Phillips has a lot of goals in this league. Probably shouldn't let him get the ball that close to your goal and then back off of him and let him shoot like that. Just a thought. I don't coach in this league, but it's a pretty obvious. Don't let the really big name striker guy get the ball and shoot. As far as players to step up, just have a Bobasi do what he's do. Just whatever he's having for breakfast. Clearly he's eating his Wheaties. As far as Cincinnati, I know it's hard, but I genuinely think everybody has to keep stepping up. This isn't a team where one player is going to necessarily make the difference. They need that kind of a full team performance to get a result. For that reason, I think Portland win this 3-1.
Do you think Jaap Stam learned from the Columbus game? Because, yes, it was a weak RBNY team. Yes, it was a man-down Atlanta team. They have back-to-back shutouts right now.
It's tough. I don't know if he learned from the Columbus game because of how dominant Columbus were. You know what I mean? At points, genuinely, I don't say that as a joke. I felt bad for Cincinnati at one point. Columbus was literally playing keep away. They were up 4-0, and if they really wanted to, probably could have scored 2 or 3 more. That's the realistic truth of that game is Columbus steamrolled them. So I'm sure Jaap Stam looked at it and said, these are things that we could work on. That was his first game really in charge of them. So I'm sure he took things away from it, but I think he probably learned more from the other 2 games versus that one against Columbus. I think the way they set up, and I'm sure he's kind of learning which players can play the way he's going to try to work with them on. And likewise, I think the players are slowly now starting to learn, like, okay, this is what he wants from us. He doesn't want us to just, bunker in for 90 minutes and every time we get the ball, say, oh, crap, and kick the ball as far as we can. Because that's what Cincinnati's done pretty much in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue, not just in this tournament, but if we have a season after this and, of course, going into next year under him. I think if you give him the time based on the last 2 games and you let him kind of make not a whole lot of changes, because that, I think, takes a lot more time, but, bring in those 1 or 2 players that I think can play the way he wants. That midfield 3 that they played, Amaya, Midjunin, and I think who was the other one? Stanko, maybe? Yeah, Caleb Stanko started the last one. Is a weird midfield. So Frank de Boer almost seems like a winger to me and not necessarily a center mid, which leaves you as a Midjunin and Stanko to literally just block the whole back 5. Midjunin, we've said, needs people around him. So Frankie Amaya is, making those runs forward. He's not helping you defend. If Stanko gets beat, it's literally just you. So I think that's the one area they probably will look to fix, whether they go a 5-4-1 and just add, one more midfielder in there somewhere, but we'll see.
I agree. We will see. We will see how badly Portland lose that game. That's really the only question we have to answer, really. But while we await that game, let's move into Columbus versus Minnesota. Columbus, top of Group E, 3 wins, 7 goals for, 0 goals against, versus Minnesota with second in the Group D, 1 win, 2 ties, 4 goals for, 3 goals against. Let's start with the best team in the tournament with little competition. I won't say they've blown everybody out, but there's little competition. They got the best back line, 0 goals against. The best attacking line, maybe. There's arguments to be had there. Darlington Nagbe on his own, let alone with the other players around him, make them one of the most dominant midfields in the league. They literally have it all, and they're deep too. Everybody they bring off their bench can play, especially DEJ7, our boy. But no, even when he's come on, right, he has provided and he's looked decent. He's gotten into really good spots and chances. So they bring on players who can do good work as well. Caleb Porter's done a really good job building that team. Player of the group stage, or before that, I'll say that I predicted and am going to predict them to win the whole thing. I predicted it when we were with Sacktown on their live show, and there's a good reason for it, right? You watch them 7 goals, 0 goals against. Player of the group stage for me is Ryan. I love what he brings to the team. He's so explosive and dynamic, and it's just different, right? It's different than the Columbus that we've seen before, and I'm really excited for them. The player I'm going to watch, I originally said I have no one that I'm going to watch. However, I do believe that Eloy Roone is no longer with the team. I believe he had to leave. To become – nope. He had to – Andrew Tarbell started last game, and I believe that it's going to be a long-term thing. I don't think that he's back yet. I could be wrong, so I'm going to put a little asterisk next to that. I just remembered this before. That's why I'm not prepared to speak on it, because I was just thinking about, I'm like, there has to be somebody that we need to talk about, because I know the team's good, but there needs to be a weak spot. I believe Andrew Tarbell is the starting goalkeeper now, and while he's good, I like Andrew Tarbell. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think his form is very good. I think he's a good, solid, technical goalkeeper. He's number 2, and he's number 2 for a reason, right? Number 2 goalkeepers are always going to be tough like that, and it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. I will do more research on that at some point, but if Andrew Tarbell is starting, he's the guy you got to watch, because we know what happens when you put a backup in a big game. Connor Lade for Kamar Lawrence or let me go an even better one because Kamar Lawrence was actually hurt. Reese Buckmaster for Amir Murillo. Yeah, one of those. Going to my Loons, they haven't lost yet. That's good news. Bad news, they're going up against the best team in the league without Ike Opara and maybe not their best striker either in Amaria. I'm not sure if he's healthy yet. So, not so good.
Yeah. Eloy Room has a hamstring injury.
There it is. Yep, I knew it was something. He left the group early to become a dad earlier in about a month ago. That's what I was thinking of. So they're going up against the best team in the league without Ike and probably without Amaria, at least to start. So that's not great. Play the group stage for me, Ethan Finley. Leads the team in goals, helped them get some points against Colorado. It's just been pretty dynamic and has helped Minnesota look better. Not the team they were last year because they're still missing some players, but they've looked good. I need to see more out of Roman Metnier, excuse me. He was one of the best attacking fullbacks in MLS last year, and because Adam's not going to have a chance to mention this, he was a nail-on pick in fantasy, man. Because I know you're not going to get a chance to talk fantasy anymore since we're almost out of games, but man, he was like your go-to fantasy defender. He'd always get you those attacking bonus points. And all right, cool, fantasy over. In real game, he was one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league last year, and he has had 0 goals, 0 assists. He's been in the attack, but just hasn't given anything to the attack. So I want to see more out of him. I think it's because he's not playing with the same players that he's used to playing with, right? No Darwin, no Angelo Rodriguez. So he's got to get used to that again. But I'd love to see him get in on some of the scoring, some of the action. Prediction for me. Oh, man, I love my Loons, but I'm going to go – I said 3-1. I think I'm going to go 2-1 Columbus. I think it'll be close. No, I'm going to go 3-1 Columbus. No, I'm going to go 2-1 Columbus. 2-1 Columbus is my final answer. Lock it in. Good. While we go there, at C-Dubs, the best game of the tournament in the round of 16, without any exaggeration, is a West Coast matchup between LAFC and Seattle. Can you talk to me about Seattle, who finished second in Group C, 1-1-1, 4 goals for, 2 goals against, and LAFC, who finished second in Group F with one. Ooh, what? That's not right. I have one win, 2 ties. 1 win, 2 ties, 11 goals for, and 7 goals against. Just tell me about it a little bit. Tell me what you think, who you're watching, who you think needs to do better.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about this game.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, because it's kind of a good game, kind of, whatever.
It's not FCC Vancouver.
It's also not Montreal Orlando, but we can't have banger games every time. Anyway, Seattle. They were disappointing for their first 2 games of the tournament. But just as I said in their third game prediction, they came through when they needed it most. And they were slow to start. And that's kind of, that's something that's a little bit more common with Seattle. It seems like in the past, they've been a little slower to start seasons out. And then they kind of get a rhythm going. And, they really get it together at the end of the season when they really kick it into gear. So my thinking is that it's going to be the same thing here. You're slow starting the tournament the first 2 games. They really looked like they started to kick it into gear against Vancouver. Can they keep it in gear now? So through the first 2 games when they were disappointing, the attack was lackluster and the defense wasn't necessarily great either. And then the last game, obviously, they completely flipped the switch and looked more like the Seattle we know. Some of their better players for the knockout stage for me was Nuhu, Svensson, and Ladero. But their best player, in my opinion, was Jordan Morris. And I think he's really starting to become a more consistent star in this league. And I think the biggest thing for him is staying healthy. Hopefully he does, because when he's out there playing, he looks like a really good player. And I want to say that they can continue this momentum into the knockout stage. And I think that they will, and that's going to make them super dangerous, just as they always are in knockout stages. One of the players that I want to see improve is Arriaga, because he didn't look great in the knockout stages.
I agree.
But if he can turn it around and kind of get it together with Andrade, I think they could be super solid defensively. And then you already have Morris and Lodero and Rui Diaz up top, who are, they're good for some goals. So, like I said, if he can get it together, Seattle might be the most dangerous team in this entire tournament, honestly. And then LAFC. LAFC without Vela was definitely a big question mark for some people, because we were definitely not sold on their defense early in the year. And we didn't know what the attack would look like without their star guy. And while the defense definitely still hasn't looked great, the attack was just as dominant, and they showed up in a massive way. With that being said, defense really needs to figure it out, because they conceded the joint second highest amount of goals in the entire tournament. And if for whatever reason their attack dries up, then LAFC could be in some big trouble if the defense continues to play the way that they did. One thing I'm going to be looking for is some consistency in the back line, because between the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper, in all 3 of the games, it was never consistent in any 2 games. So each time there was different players in that group of 5 people. I want to see if they take maybe that same defense that they played against Portland, or are they going to change it up again? I think this lack of consistency is not helping with them getting some chemistry in the back line and playing better. Now, in terms of the attack, obviously, as I said, Vela was the question mark. Who is going to step up and fill his void? And while you could probably say Rossi has done it the most, I think it's really been a combination of players. I think it's been Rossi, I think it's been Rodriguez, and I think it's been BWP. I would say Rossi was probably their best player, seeing as how he scored 4 goals in 1 game, especially against a rival. But I think Rodriguez has been their most consistent performer. He's really stepped up. And as JR told us, the curse of the third DP, he's looking like, obviously it's very early, it's a small sample size, but it's looking like he might be able to break that curse. And then BWP, he's all reliable up top still. People might have thought he was done, but he's gone out in there and proven that he can still score goals for them. And he's been really solid for them. My worry for them is if Rossi falls off, like he did more so in the Portland game, can Rodriguez and BWP step up and fill that void for the attack? Because I'm still not sold on the defense, and I feel like there's still a lot of uncertainty there. And if that's the case, if they do fall off, if the attack does fall off and they don't fill the void with other players, I feel like this LAFC team is definitely beatable. And based on that, I want to say Seattle take this one 3-2.
Very interesting. I think the biggest thing for me is that back line, right? That back line, just 7 goals against in 3 games.
It's not good.
Not great, right? Not great.
No.
So let's go ahead and just hit our predictions for every game. I will record them, and then I might have some breaking news for you guys. I'm trying to confirm it as we speak. But I think it might, like Atlanta United manager breaking.
Oh, you think you found their manager, the new one?
No, I see a link, and we'll talk about it in a second. But
Okay.
let's do our things here first.
Is it a link to the team of Adams players that I built?
No.
I think I finished the team, but I'll get into it
We'll
later.
talk about it. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm excited.
You guys know the drill. Adam, Connor, me. Orlando, Montreal, go.
2-1 Montreal.
Are we picking the score at 90? Like, if this goes to PKs, how are we supposed to
You could
judge that?
say in PKs. You could say it finishes this score in PKs.
I say 2-1 Orlando.
Okay. I said 2-1 Orlando as well. Good job, Connor. and then we will go to Philly, New England. Psst, Adam, that's your job.
I know. I'm thinking. 1-0 Philly.
1-0 New England.
Going the opposite of what I say, Connor.
Yeah.
I put 1-1 New England on PKs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Matt Turner beating Andre Blake in PKs.
Absolutely. San Jose, Real Salt Lake.
3-1 San Jose.
Connor?
2-0 San Jose.
I had 1-0 San Jose. Wait a second. Adam, wasn't this your team?
Yeah. What did I say?
I don't remember.
Me either.
I figured you had it written down or something. You were
No,
like,
no,
guessing.
no.
You're wild.
I say multiple things, so if I get it right, I can be like, oh, got
It could be 6-6 or it could be 0-0. But they
Okay, in
scored
fairness,
6.
I was close.
SKC Vancouver.
3-0.
Who?
Who do you think?
Vancouver.
Yeah, definitely. No. Sorry, Ali Adnan. Love you, but you're going to get smacked by this Kansas City team.
Connor.
Is Melia still out this game?
No, he's back.
He's back? Oh, yeah, I'm going to say 3-0 also.
Yeah.
I have 2-0 SKC. TFC NYC.
2-0 Toronto.
I think I said 2-1 Toronto.
I also said 2-1 Toronto. Connor, we're on the same wavelength, man. How much is Portland losing by to FCC, Adam?
2-0 Portland.
Connor?
I think Portland loses by -3 goals.
Wow.
So what's the scoreline?
3-0 Portland.
I had 2-0 Portland as well. Columbus, Minnesota.
3-1 Columbus.
Connor?
I say 2-0 Columbus.
I had 2-1 Columbus. Seattle, LAFC to finish it off. Adam?
3-2 Seattle.
Connor?
3-2 Seattle.
Oh, see, now I know where Adam got it from. I have 2-2 Seattle in PKs.
Can never bet against Stephen Fry PKs.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Fair.
All right, so
you can, but you didn't.
those are our predictions. You're right, I didn't. I could, but I'm not going to. Mainly because I don't trust Kenneth Vermeer, Cisniega, or whoever else you're going to put in there. Connor, you can go ahead and talk. I don't know if it'll make the episode, so let's do the closer now, and then we'll see.
Oh no, this is making the episode. I'm very curious to see what he's had, what he's got right now.
I'm putting this in the audio episode at least.
Oh yeah.
All right, go ahead. We'll cut it out now. I got to do a little bit more.
All right, you go do your research and your breaking news.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm definitely going to miss some players, so feel free to correct me. Also, I cheated a little bit. I put 2 players in there that aren't in the league right now.
No,
One is
don't
in
put
the league.
Zlatan in there.
Oh, come on. Zlatan's like your biggest homer.
Yeah, all right.
I can take him out. I can take him out if you don't want him in there.
We'll go through it and we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll put him on the bench.
Okay.
Also, guys are totally kind of out of position.
That's all right.
So we got Alan Pulido at striker.
Fair.
We got Lewis Morgan in the team.
Lewis
I
Morgan.
love some Lewis Morgan.
Interesting. Okay.
Brendan Aronson.
Yep.
Darwin Quintero, of course.
Yep.
The year of Omir Fernandez.
Yep.
Ali Adnan.
Yep.
Amro Tarek.
Fair.
Jack Elliott.
Yep.
Jimmy Madronda.
Fair.
And then in goal, I put Quincy.
You put Quincy in goal? Fine.
Put Quincy in goal.
That's fine. I'm here for it. Goalie you could have put –
I'll put Zlatan in goal because he could do everything.
yeah, that's fine.
I don't know if you have a goalie that you
Ali Adnan could have gone in goal because he can play everywhere.
It's true.
Goalie. Yeah, I really don't have. I mean, probably just Luis because I love him.
True. But that's not like a weird.
That's not. No, that's not
hype train that you're on.
If I had to pick a hype train goalie, it'd probably be Alex Bono from Toronto.
Interesting.
Have you breaking news yet?
All right, so I don't believe it is real after.
You hyped it up so much.
So I will tell you.
Okay.
In the Facebook group for the New York Red Bulls, the discussion group I'm in, somebody posted 2 pictures. One was the MLS News Instagram report of Jonathan Gonzalez to Atlanta rumors.
Right, I heard about that.
And another one was a Sky Football tweet that said Arsene Wenger expects to become the next manager at Atlanta United of MLS. And
That's not happening.
No, that's not happening. No chance.
So the reason why I thought it was real is because it is from the verified account. It doesn't look super fake. Obviously, when we were recording, I didn't do like an in-depth analysis, but at first glance, I was like, that doesn't look great. And then now that I look closer at it, and the reason why I figured out it's fake, I also looked at the Sky Football Twitter. This was tweeted at 11:10 p.m. on July 24th.
Fair.
So unless this person is sharing this, actually, you know what? I believe. Where is this guy? Is this the guy that's from like across the world where it might actually be 11:10? Yeah, so he's from Poland. He's from Poland, so it actually could have been there, but it is not on Sky Sports Twitter right now.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if that happened.
Yeah, me too.
I'd
be surprised if they go with another European guy.
Mm-hmm. The most recent tweet from there is Kylian Mbappe leaving the pitch in tears and on crutches. You see that tackle?
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Speaking
and then
of tackles, Felipe's out for a game after that awful challenge.
They suspended him?
Yeah, they suspended him a game.
Good.
Sorry. Anyways, that's our episode, guys. Thanks for following along. Keep an eye out on our YouTube page for all of these previews and predictions, and we will be on top of all of that for you as the tournament goes on. Watch out. We might be doing some live reactions on Facebook and YouTube coming up. We're working that out right now. So make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere you get your podcasts as well, so you can find episodes like these, clips like these, live reactions. We are expanding out because good things are happening with this podcast. We got a lot of really cool things coming for you guys. We have a 3-hour-long episode, and I know that sounds awful, but I promise you are going to want to listen to the whole thing. We sat down with former pro Quincy, not former pro, excuse me, catching myself.
Currently
unemployed pro Quincy Amarikwa, and mainly we talked a little bit about his career, but we really sat down and talked about mental strength and what type of mindset you need to get from the bottom to the top and how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it was just such an eye-opening episode, and we had a lot of laughs. We had a lot of really serious conversation too. It was just phenomenal. You guys are going to want to listen to it. It's long. We might cut it into parts. We're not sure yet, but you're going to want to listen to the whole thing. It is phenomenal. It's a great interview. We talked a lot about what he did with the BPC, talked a lot about what he does with his Perfect Soccer website and podcast. We talk a whole bunch with him. He's a great guy, really fantastic stuff. You're going to like it. It's going to come out at the end of this tournament. Just keep an eye out for it. You're going to be following everywhere because you're going to want to see it. But other than that, anybody else got anything else to say? I was going to ask a question of the day, but it seems like you guys took some time with the hype train. But it's a quick question of the day.
Okay, go for it.
All 3 of our teams are out. Who are you supporting?
Columbus.
Connor?
No, supporting Kansas City.
Okay,
Make it
Connor?
different.
So I don't know if I want to cheer for a team that I like or if I want to cheer for a team that I think is going to win. You go first. I got to think about it.
Oh, you already know who I'm with. FCC, baby.
All right. Yeah, because you're front running FCC. That's why.
Yeah.
Only with them while they're good, never with them while they're bad.
I'm really just cheering for Alan Polito and a little bit for Guy DeKinda. But yeah, supporting Kansas City.
All right. Well,
See, I like RSL. Like if
you
I'm
like
picking
their
a team I
kits. You don't like RSL. You like their kits.
no, I have no problem with RSL. I like RSL. But if I'm cheering for a team that I think is gonna win, I'll probably go Seattle.
All right, cool. So that's it. You heard who we are now supporting. Up the Cincy boys. Let's go, boys. We are going to win it all. It's going to be great. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you're following us everywhere. You get your podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well. This has been another episode of the Designated Players Podcast, and we will catch you on the next one. See ya.